Noah Harper had always been a man of routine. He worked as a cashier at the local 24/7 Smart, a small convenience store tucked away on the edge of town. The fluorescent lights buzzed above him during his usual shifts, casting an artificial glow that kept the darkness at bay. But Noah wasn't like everyone else. He carried a deep-seated phobia of the dark, one rooted in childhood memories he tried hard to bury. When his manager, Mr. Caldwell, insisted Noah take the night shift for a week, panic gripped him. "It's just part of the job, Noah," Mr. Caldwell said firmly, leaning against the counter with arms crossed. "Everyone does it in rotation. If you can't handle it, maybe this isn't the right place for you." Noah swallowed hard. He couldn't afford to lose his job. Not now, not when rent was due and bills were piling up. Reluctantly, he agreed, though every fiber of his being screamed against it. The first 2 nights passed without incident, but they weren't easy. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle outside the glass doors, sent shivers down Noah's spine. His mind conjured images of shadowy figures lurking just beyond the light. Each time the bell above the door jingled, signaling a customer entering, he jumped, heart racing. To calm himself, Noah reminded himself of what he'd told himself countless times before. "It's just your imagination. Lights are on. Everything is visible." And indeed, under the harsh glare of the overhead bulbs, nothing seemed out of place. Still, the fear lingered, a ghost from his past. As a child, Noah's father had used the dark as punishment. Whenever Noah misbehaved, whether it was breaking a vase or sneaking cookies before dinner, his father would lock him in the basement. "Maybe the dark will teach you some respect," his dad would growl before slamming the door shut. Hours later, Noah would emerge, trembling and tear-streaked, convinced something sinister lurked in those shadows. Now, years later, the mere absence of light could send him spiraling back into that cold, suffocating basement. On the 3rd night, disaster struck. A sudden electrical fault plunged the entire store into darkness. The hum of the refrigerators died, leaving only an eerie silence behind. Noah froze, his breath catching in his throat. For a moment, all he could hear was the pounding of his own heartbeat. He fumbled for his phone, using its flashlight app to navigate through the aisles. Shadows danced wildly around him, distorted by the weak beam of light. As he made his way toward the breaker box near the storeroom, a sliver of moonlight filtered through the front windows, illuminating the checkout area. And then he saw it. Standing motionless at the end of the aisle was a figure cloaked in darkness. Its head tilted unnaturally to one side, and its eyes, if they could even be called eyes, glowed faintly, reflecting the pale moonlight. Noah's blood ran cold. He stumbled backward, dropping his phone. The light flickered and went out, plunging him into complete blackness. "Who's there?" Noah croaked, his voice shaking. There was no response, only the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps echoing closer. Panic surged through him. He scrambled to pick up his phone, praying the flashlight would work again. When the light finally sputtered back to life, the figure was gone. Breathing heavily, Noah convinced himself it must have been his imagination playing tricks on him. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, or perhaps a stray animal. But deep down, he knew better. That night, sleep eluded Noah. Even after returning home, he couldn't shake the image of the figure, or the feeling that it was watching him. Memories of his childhood flooded back, unbidden and unwelcome. He remembered the nights spent huddled in the corner of the basement, clutching a blanket as tears streamed down his face. He remembered the whispers, the ones his father claimed came from the shadows themselves. "You're never safe in the dark, boy," his father's voice echoed in his mind. "It sees you. It knows." Noah clenched his fists, trying to push the thoughts away. He hated how much power the dark still held over him, hated how it reduced him to the frightened little boy he once was. Determined not to let fear control him anymore, Noah returned to work the next evening. This time, he brought a portable lantern, vowing to face whatever came his way. The store felt different tonight, quieter, heavier, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Around midnight, the same electrical fault occurred. The lights flickered and died, plunging the store into darkness once more. Noah hesitated, then switched on the lantern. Its warm glow pushed back the shadows, giving him a sense of security. But the relief was short-lived. From the corner of his eye, he caught movement. Turning sharply, he saw the figure again, standing silently at the far end of the aisle. This time, it didn't disappear. Instead, it began to move toward him, step by agonizing step. "No," Noah whispered, backing away. "Stay away from me." The figure stopped abruptly, tilting its head again. Then, in a voice that sounded like nails scraping against metal, it spoke. "Why do you run, Noah? You know why I'm here." Terror paralyzed him. How did it know his name? What did it want? Summoning every ounce of courage, Noah forced himself to stand his ground. "I'm not afraid of you," he shouted, though his knees threatened to buckle beneath him. "You're nothing but a memory, a ghost from my past." For a moment, the figure wavered, its form flickering like static on an old TV screen. Then slowly, it dissolved into the shadows, leaving Noah alone in the dim light of the lantern. Shaken but resolute, Noah realized something important that night. The figure wasn't real. It was a manifestation of his own fears, born from years of trauma and self-doubt. By running from it, he had given it power. But by facing it head-on, he had taken that power back. Over the next few days, Noah continued his night shifts with newfound confidence. Though the dark still unsettled him, he no longer let it rule his life. He learned to embrace the quiet moments, finding solace in the hum of the vending machines and the soft glow of the moonlight streaming through the windows. One evening, as he locked up the store after closing, Noah paused to look out at the empty parking lot. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace. The shadows no longer loomed menacingly. They simply existed, as they always had. And somewhere, deep within the recesses of his mind, he heard his father's voice one last time. But instead of striking fear into his heart, it faded into silence, replaced by the steady rhythm of his own breathing. Noah smiled faintly. He had faced the darkness and won.